Hi guys, it's Pastor Eric, and welcome to Youth Sunday School at First Congregational Church of Webster Groves. This is the third week which we are practicing the social distancing guidelines of the CDC as we combat the COVID-19 pandemic. This week we are going to focus on the lesson exploration number 11, which is titled Right Turn Only. The theme is the only way. Sometimes I like to share stories. Some of them are my own stories. Sometimes they're stories that I've gathered from reading different books and short stories. But this week I'm going to share a quick story about myself. Contrary to popular belief, I wasn't always a minister. And when I was a teenager, exactly 15 years old, in Mississippi, you can obtain your driver's license at 15. You get your learner's permit at 14, believe it or not. And at 15, I had purchased a car. And one day when I was driving home from high school band practice, one of my band members prompted me and taunted me and wanted to race. And so we began to race, knowing it wasn't a good decision. But again, we began to race down Highway 49, or I should say up Highway 49, because we were going north on 49. And lo and behold, there was a Mississippi State Highway patrolman that was posted up with a speed trap, and he clocked both of us speeding. I'm not going to say how fast we were clocked at, but he pulled both of us over, and we both obtained speeding tickets. And so I had to deal with a decision. What was I going to do? Was I going to just somehow get the money and pay the ticket, or was I going to tell my parents? So I opted to tell my parents. I told my mother. And she said, well, we're going to have to look into this because I don't think you should just pay the ticket because then you'll get points on your record. At that time, I knew nothing about a driving record. I was only 15. I had only had my license for a few months. And lo and behold, that there was an option to take a defensive driving class. And if you take the defensive driving class, then you don't have to pay points. You don't get any points on your record, and you don't have to pay the cost of the speeding ticket. And to make a long story short, I learned a lot of things during that defensive driving class, but one thing that I learned was the importance of focusing on where you want to go. And for example, if you're on the icy road and you start to lose traction and your car starts to spin out, a lot of times people look at objects that they do not want to hit. For example, if you're heading towards a tree or you're heading towards a telephone pole, we were taught, do not look at the telephone pole or the tree. Look where you want to go. So put your eyes on the road ahead of you in the direction that you want the car to point. And by doing so, it programs your brain to focus your body to direct you in the right direction. So as I got older and I started to think more theologically, I thought, what a magnificent point that was that we can use not just in driving, but in life. Because oftentimes we focus on directions or things that we don't want to encounter. In the driving example, you don't want to hit a pole or a tree, then don't look at the tree. Look at the road ahead of you. And it's almost magical how your car will be directed because your focus is not on objects that you do not want to encounter or collide with. Your focus is on the road ahead of you. I've learned that this doesn't just work with driving, defensive driving, but it also works in life. And so the point is today, I want us to not focus only on this COVID-19. I want us to focus on God. And so as I began to think about God during the week, he placed on my heart that we should start a tag team. And this tag team means thinking about God, not thinking about COVID. And I don't mean that we're going to ignore all the scientific evidence and facts that we have, because I'm a physician. I follow those guidelines to the T. We need to continue to focus on social distancing. You know, if you have masks, wear masks so that you can protect others that you're around that might be vulnerable. But let's focus on God. Think about God. This is the tag team. think about God. And by doing so, I think that we will become better as a society, better as a community, and it'll help us to make right choices by focusing on God. And what is God saying? In the United Church of Christ, we have this saying that God is still speaking. And I believe God is still speaking even during this time where it seems like there's a relative silence because we are so isolated. So bringing it back to our Sunday school lesson, right turn only, right turn only. We want to make right decisions, not just for ourselves, but for others. See you in Sunday school.